Welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. Best known as the founder of Entertainment Network, a $3.5 million venture, a media icon who literally built the first 61-channel two-way interactive cable system in the U.S., named by Forbes as the national model for cable programming. Entertainment became the fastest growing network in the world with broadcasts in over 140 countries, valuation of nearly $4 billion, achieving success beyond his wildest dreams, consulting at Microsoft, Interactive TV, launched television.com, brought in as a consultant on media restructuring in China to allow for Western advertising, starting the first U.S.-China production company in China. He launched Metan Global Entertainment Group, went on to be nominated for the Best Asian Comedy Writer Award. Please welcome to the show, Larry Namer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am thrilled to have you here. Your story, I think, can really inspire our audience about being unstoppable. I want to jump in and hear your story. Having grown up in New York myself, how did you go from being the first person in your family to go to college, splicing cables in the sewers of Manhattan, to starting Entertainment?
Well, people ask me that question, and quite honestly, there's no answer. Family were immigrants. Their aspiration for their children was get a civil service job and be able to retire with a pension and stuff like that. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I chose not to follow that path, much to my parents' dismay, but turned out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up getting a job in cable TV when cable TV was kind of brand new.
Right.
But my first job was in Manhattan, splicing cables under the streets. So literally, I worked in the sewers of Manhattan. I think they paid me $90 a week or something like that.
Wow.
And what I kind of grew up in the cable business, and I realized that there's so much more to what cable is capable of than just providing good reception. And and then because I had so much experience with underground systems,
Right.
I got recruited to come out and build Los Angeles, the San Fernando Valley cable system, which was the first two-way interactive cable system in the U.S. And I was at the ripe old age of 30, I think, at that point. And,
Amazing.
but Brooklyn kid comes out to California, and everybody's going to movie premieres and all this kind of cool stuff. And I said, hey, I want to do that. And my friend Alan and Alan comes from New Jersey, and we just kept playing around with ideas for, what we can do. And we came up with this basic, simple concept: was MTV of the movies. We said if, MTV could stand the host in front of a green screen and point to the green screen and say, Madonna has a new video.
Yeah.
We could get a host to stand in front of a green screen and say, and Schwarzenegger has a new movie. And so, we came up with a plan. We thought it was brilliant. When we went around, everybody told us, nice idea, but you're not Ted Turner, you're not Rupert Murdoch, and we're not going to get any money. And but we weren't smart enough to listen. So we just kept going until we raised a little bit of money, nowhere near enough to start a TV network. But I had a friend teaching radio, television, film at Austin, Texas, UT. And he sent us 31 interns. And
Wow.
with very little money, we started with 11 employees and 31 interns.
Well, what about perseverance? Like, what advice do you have for our audience about perseverance if they want to turn their crazy ideas into a business or want to scale a business? How did you keep going after getting a lot of no's to you finally just had that belief in your idea and finally got funded?
Well, we always knew it was a good idea. There
Right.
was no question that the idea was good. The question was, um, is anybody ever going to give us money? At that time, the going rate to start a TV network was somewhere between 60 and $100 million.
Right.
And we realized nobody was giving us that money. So we ended up meeting an investment banker on Wall Street who loved the idea, but you were only allowed to sign for $2.5 million.
Right.
And we just said, you know what, we're smart enough. We'll take the $2.5 million. We'll figure the rest out. So he actually, the valuation's up around $5 billion today.
Wow.
Started with $2.5 million, and Alan and my faith in the concept and stuff like that. But we always knew it was going to work. I mean, there was never any doubt. The only doubt was whether anybody would ever give us money.
So you never had any wavering on your belief in the concept. Like, how did you get the idea to start Talk Soup and Howard Stern on TV and all that kind of inventive stuff?
Well, again, we only had a very little amount of money, so we had to be very creative. Um, so we started out by having hosts stand in front of a green screen and introduce movie trailers and clips and stuff that the studios gave us for nothing. So that was one. And then when we had a little bit of traction, cable systems were signing up, and we had some advertising money, we decided we'll do some low cost programming. And Talk Soup was very simple, but when we first introduced the idea to our team, they all kind of looked at Alan and I and said, guys, you want to do a TV show that makes fun of TV shows? And I was like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, Greg Kinnear, who, turned out to be Academy Award Greg Kinnear, we just said, hey, Greg, let's improv this. We'll show you clips and you comment. There wasn't a lot of science behind it, but it was a low-cost way for us to get into the original program world. So we did that. And Talk Soup, as silly as the idea sounded to people, ran 26 years. So obviously it wasn't such a bad idea. Howard was another one that was, when Alan and I came up with that, we had met him in New York and stuff like that. And, we told everybody we want to put cameras in this guy's radio studio, and everybody laughed and said, where have you guys been? Radio's dead for 40 years. And they didn't realize there was an old TV show called WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And, when we looked at Howard's show, we said, this is the real life version of KRP in Cincinnati. And it's an ensemble comedy cast.
Right.
And, obviously Howard did pretty well. The show did pretty well.
Iconic. Everything you've done there's no other word besides iconic. You are iconic. And what about like failing forward? Was there any advice that you have for all of us to be creative and be scrappy and believe in our crazy ideas? Have you ever failed in any of your endeavors?
Oh, God, yeah. I wake up every morning with 10 new ideas. By the time I go to sleep, like usually all 10 were pretty dumb. Every once in a while, I'll have one good one, and thank God those pay the rent and, everything else. But, probably the biggest failure, we actually were part of a group that we owned the domain name television.com.
Right.
And we decided we were going to launch television.com and have video on it and stuff. And when we launched it, people were paying $25 per thousand for advertising.
That's a
And
lot.
then the market crashed.
Oh.
And the price went down to 25 cents. But it actually cost us more than 25 cents to serve up the video. So the more people that used us, the more money we lost. Until finally we just said, you know what, we're not smart enough to figure this one out. Let's just abandon it. And we did, thank God. So we lost a little, but not a lot. But that was just not being aware that market timing is, as important as your bright ideas. So,
Well, yeah, that's out of our hands. Like, so is it important to know when to scrap an idea and not keep charging forward?
yeah, I think, if what differentiates me from probably other young entrepreneurs, although I'm not young anymore, is just I'm very, very honest with myself. I literally self-assess every night, um, which most entrepreneurs don't do. Most people go by this thing like follow your passion and stuff. Sometimes your passion is wrong. It could
Right.
be passionate, but it's never going to, put food on the table and pay the rent and, do all of that stuff. Maybe the idea wasn't so good, maybe the environment changed, maybe the time has passed, whatever. But I'm pretty good by, I go to bed every night and think about all the things I'm involved in and go, you know what, that one's not so good, out. And yeah, but most people stick with stuff too long. I think that's one of the big problems they have is just not being able to admit that, maybe it was a good idea, maybe it wasn't so good, but, you know, get rid of it. The most valuable thing you have is time. And if you're wasting your time on something just because you're passionate, but it's never going to be, um, you're not taking advantage of the good ideas you may have that you really need to put your time towards.
So is it a good idea to do some kind of a thorough market research before you just decide to run with something?
Um, Quite honestly, people hate when I say this, especially the MBAs in the audience. I'm not a big believer in market research for things that have not been done before.
Right.
I think if you're going to start something where there's competition in the field and people have done it, then yes, you do market research. But when you go out to people with ideas that are not out there and you say, just imagine, that's it, you're dead. I mean, they can't imagine. So um, on brand new stuff, I go by more gut instinct than market research.
Yeah.
But then once we're going, then we'll do the market research, figure out how to refine it. But at the beginning, it's more my gut than it is research.
And what advice do you have for our audience about scaling and monetizing? Like that is obviously you don't have a business if you're just out there like coming up with one crazy idea after another. What advice do you have for our audience on that?
Well, I mean, first, when you're looking at a new business, you got to say, okay, what's the real market size for this? Is it big enough that you could get some traction early on and be able to generate enough cash to keep it going? Um, and the other thing that I think is real important is the ability to protect the idea. A lot of people don't think of that. I mean, when I hate to use his name in vain, but I do it all the time. When I come up with an idea and it's a media, the first thought I have is I go, okay, what is Rupert Murdoch going to do when he finds out I'm going to do this? And if I can't protect it from Rupert Murdoch, and again, I'm using Rupert as a symbol, if I can't protect it, I don't do it.
So trademarking or
it's whatever it takes. Trademarking, is one way, but others say, okay, who are the real important quote influencers or assets in the field? And when we did it was interesting because first we went and I got all the studios to agree this is a good idea, and they signed on with us.
right.
And then I went to the cable operators and said, I got all the studios and we're going to show previews of all the stuff you're going to show on HBO and Showtime and blah, 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 blah. And they signed on with us. Well, then Home Shopping Network had the idea like, oh, that's a great idea. We'll do our own entertainment channel. And then Turner said, oh, no, I'll do that channel. But we already had the studios. We already had the cable operators. So even though we didn't have as much money and power as they did, we controlled the assets.
Oh,
So
you had their buy-in and their agreements. They were
yeah,
it.
we had the agreements locked up and stuff. So by the time everybody woke up, the game was over, really. So yeah, sometimes it's copyright, sometimes it's trademark, sometimes it's just strategic relationships. Just figure out who can kill you, and then get them out of the picture as quick as you can.
I love it. So what are the new ideas that you're excited about these days? I know you're excited about China. What about like VR and Bitcoin and all the new things?
Um, Doing a lot in China. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're doing in China, I don't know if you've seen the latest thing called immersive Van Gogh.
I have. It was so wonderful. I have the poster right here.
Oh, great. Okay, so we're doing 12 of those in China.
Wonderful show.
Um, so yeah, we're building those out in China. We're doing Van Gogh, Nutcracker, Klimt. Uh,
Clint,
next
that's
year,
wonderful.
next year we're doing immersive 100 years of Disney animation. Um, so we're doing a lot of that in China. So I love that stuff. Um, I'm helping some folks here start what I call socially responsible programming. After some of the stuff I've done and the heckling I've got for things like Howard Stern or Kardashians or that
Right.
stuff. So
Kardashians. Yeah.
I decided I need to redeem myself. So uh, helping some folks start a TV series to teach financial wellness to millennials. Um,
Wow. What a
because
wonderful thing. I
the
wish
schools
someone
don't
taught
teach
that to me
anything.
when I was younger. No one taught me anything about financial literacy.
Yeah, and both the EQ and the IQ. So it's not just here's how you get a credit card or whatever, but just the whole emotional side. When you look at divorce rates in the U.S., I mean, more than half are somehow related to money, fighting the
Right.
husband and wife fight over.
Right. That's a biggie.
And then I'm working with this woman named Catherine Sillery, who's one of the global experts on parenting, and she does TED Talks and she goes all around. And so we're putting together a series on called conscious parenting. But when you think about it, the world has changed for parents dramatically, particularly in the last 20 or 30 years. Um,
Right.
Now you've got, bullying, you've got school shootings, got transgender issues. Yeah,
Homeschooling was hard too on parents.
yeah. And when I was a baby, my mother brought me home, and my grandmother lived upstairs, and my aunt lived next door. So my mother had a support system. She knew she was with people who knew how to take care of this little thing that they gave you in the hospital. Now, these kids go away to school and they go out of state and then they get married and then they have a kid and, there's nobody around and you have a baby and they hand it to you in the hospital and they go, here you go. And you're like, what do I do with this thing?
Right.
Um, so conscious parenting really deals with all the issues that, have come up and, how you raise good kids and stuff like that. And parenting, I found out, never ends.
Never.
Once you have them, they're yours for life, no matter how old they get.
Especially women. Like we're lifers.
Oh God, yeah. My daughter got married last year, so she's kind of been my
Congratulations.
guinea pig for a lot of stuff.
Well, and what about women's television? I hear you're doing stuff in women's television too.
Yeah, doing well, interestingly enough, and this is not on purpose, it's not a conscious thing, but most of the folks that work for me, next level down, I think we're like at 80% of women. Um,
Awesome.
and again, don't jump up and down because it's not conscious. It's just that, I these are the people I think are the smartest, and these are the people I find that are easy to work with, and it's just kind of turned out that way. Um, but I am doing something called some friends of mine are in the fashion world, and
Yeah.
I'm helping them start a platform called Beauty Queen, which is BTYKWN, which really deals with the communications and content platform for the fringes of the LGBTQI community.
Interesting.
Um, it's quite an experience for me. I'm their token straight guy. Um, but that's been an eye opener for me on this world, and it's also helped me understand a lot of what's going on here because again, even with parenting, you look at these gender identity issues and stuff, and you see how many suicides are happening, with teenage kids because they can't figure it out and
Right.
they can't talk to their parents, they can't talk to the teachers, can't talk to their friends. So, so those are my what I call socially responsible projects, and
I love it that you're repenting for Kardashians and Howard Stern.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, doing that. But in terms of technology, I'm into the NFT world. Um,
Awesome.
very much so. I kind of threw myself in so I could learn it. Um, I just joined the board of a Swiss banking company that's starting kind of alternative methods of funding media and entertainment projects, particularly through the public markets with equity crowdfunding and things like that. So, I'm into, blockchain and all of that stuff. And technology, AR, VR, of course, but I'm really in love with holograms. Um, not so much for entertainment, but I love holograms for education because,
Really?
well, I'm on the advisory board of the Einstein Foundation. And when Albert died, he left all of his IP to Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And so they have thousands of hours of video of Albert doing things. So, yeah, I'm saying, why can't we, you look at a college and you look at the lecture rooms and stuff, the kids are sleeping because the instructor is like boring academic. I said, but, in physics, what if I were to create holographic Albert and Albert taught you the theory of relativity?
That would get my attention. I'm a visual learner. I think that's
Yeah.
what the problem is. A lot of people are different kinds of learners.
And the other part about it is, we could beam Albert into any country in the world, and he could speak the native language. So what it really does is it levels the playing field. So a kid in Africa, with maybe not so much resources, could be learning physics from Albert Einstein the same way as a kid in New York or whatever. But the implications of that, if it works, is then you could get the smartest teachers in the world from any subject. And basically, you could teach the kids of the world using the smartest teachers. So I love holograms for education.
I love that. Well, I started this podcast, like I said, to help people bounce back better and pivot during the pandemic because it was hard for me. And I know it's been hard for so many of us entrepreneurs. Is there any final thoughts on being unstoppable you want to leave our audience with?
Well, I think it's the self-assessment thing, and the most important. I mean, your time is limited, so don't hang on to stuff just because you were passionate about it. Just admit that maybe it wasn't so good, and move on to the stuff that that you can accomplish something with. So that's kind of my big takeaway, I think.
Well, thank you. You are so iconic, Larry Namer. I'm so thrilled to get to meet you. And I know everybody else may be listening to this on audio, but just to see your beautiful art behind you. And I know I found you on LinkedIn. Are you on Facebook too? Where can people find you?
Yeah, Facebook, actually, the Facebook is the one I do myself. But it's basically my food blog. If I didn't do this TV stuff, I'd be a chef somewhere.
Wow.
I love to cook, and if you look at my Facebook, it's more of my cooking than anything else. But you can find me on Facebook, and generally, unless it's someone looking for a job or pitching me their next movie, I do answer those.
I love that you answered me. Thank you for being a fantastic guest on Whole CEO with Lisa G.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks for coming to Whole CEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.